lot of people seem to think that when the missionaries came out here, they were crusty old fellows with long beards who travelled on horseback around the country spreading the gospel. But the fact is that these were young men mostly. For example, William Colenso. He was a young man who really had a heart after seeking for truth. The guy went to so many church services back home in Cornwall that, put most of us to shame, but he wanted to be involved, he wanted to be engaged, and he turned up in London at the Church Missionary Society headquarters around about the time that they were looking for a printer in New Zealand to print the gospel that had been translated by the various missionaries under the guidance of William Williams. So he turned up at the right time, but he, at a very early age, he'd had a revelation. He said it was like the candle of the Lord landed on my head and gave me a revelation that this is what I needed to do. I needed to be involved. Colenso came out to New Zealand in December 1834 with his printing press, big heavy metal thing, and it was the waka were all crowded round when the ship came in, and offloading it must have been a huge effort and certainly a real drama, and there were all these Māori waka around the place, and two were strung together as they used pulleys to be able to put it down, safely on the platform between these two canoes. And you can just imagine Māori looking at this big package of lead that he'd bought out to do the printing and thinking, oh, that'd make really good musket fare, wouldn't it? And so it was a pretty dangerous time, but having got that on board and set up, then Colenso looks at his inventory and goes, well, hang on a minute, all these things I asked for aren't here. Where's the imposition table? Where's the brass rules that you're supposed to put in between the columns so that I can make the type look good? And there was just so much missing, including paper. So they hadn't even sent the paper out. So he had to confiscate, well, at least ask very nicely for the missionaries to hand over all their stationery for the next few months. So the first, I think it was the Gospel of Ephesians and Philippians, were printed on missionary stationery. So when the paper finally arrives, I think one of the Gospels that he first printed was the Gospel of Luke, which ends up going around the country and really making a huge difference as Māori got a hold of this. But this was the beginning of a literary revolution. This was the first time that Māori had anything written down in their own language. This was a move from an oral culture into a written culture, and as Māori were learning in the mission schools to read the gospel in their own language, and everything was done in te reo. This is not done in English. So the missionaries first had to learn the Māori language, and now they're producing the gospel in the Māori language, and now you've got the Gospel of Luke, thousands of copies of this going around the country, treated as an important toanga or treasure by Māori. They would come from miles around to get copies of this, take it back to their own people, and share the gospel message, which spread around the country like wildfire.